Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Sacred space. It's cryptic. The sacred space. What does it mean? And its relevance to our lives. This is what we'll be discussing over the next 2 days. So just like in our house, we keep it clean and we keep things auspicious. We can feel the difference as soon as we clean the house. We light an incense stick, offer it to the Lord. We can feel a little bit of sattva. In the external world, we seek cleanliness. We take a shower regularly. We dress up nicely. We focus on our good social etiquette. We want things to be nice on the external front. But there is a whole different world inside of us also. And it's an amazing world inside. It's like, imagine you enter a forest. It's dark. It's lonely. Foreboding. There is like jackals howling incessantly. And occasionally a lion roars. What happens to you? If you are stuck there in a forest like this, what happens?
Scared.
You start screaming, you start get really scared, and what do you long for? To go home. You want to somehow run and reach home and feel that shelter, feel safe, isn't it? Now, actually there is a forest inside of us also. And many of us, we are scared. So what we do, like our thoughts, our feelings, our desires, being with all of that is like being in a forest. It's scary. And therefore, we don't want to be in that forest. So what do? We pick up our smartphones. We start going through the YouTube reels, endless web series, Netflix. All this, why? Because I don't want to be in that forest. It's scary. The world of my thoughts, feelings, desires, emotions, mind, intelligence, ego. This inside forest is very scary. Let me distract myself with all the temptations that are available in this world. Let me busy myself. Let me not face my forest. Am I saying something that is relatable to you?
Yes.
We all have this experience, right? Especially when we are in pain. I have seen, there's a lot of studies which have proved this, that people when they go through business losses, relationship crisis, pain and suffering, also during that period it has been seen that they spend an inordinate amount of time on social media because that's an escape route for many. We don't want to face our inner world. It's a dangerous, deadly forest. But we don't realize that it's not a scary forest. It's a beautiful Vrindavan forest where Radha Krishna are residing and they're inviting us. But we don't want to enter the forest because we're scared. Because to meet Radha and Krishna, to be connected to our real self, we need to face some pain. We need to face our inadequacies. We need to sit with our pain. But unfortunately, from childhood we've been trained to reduce pain and increase pleasure. Any of us have been taught to embrace pain. We are always taught to reduce pain. But we can't evolve, we can't grow, we can't spiritually advance unless we learn to embrace pain. So the sacred space, what we're talking about, what I have understood, the sacred space is the willingness to surrender, to enter this world of our inner world, which is like a forest, and navigate through that, journey in that forest and meet our beloved lordships, Radha and Krishna. Connect to our real self. And it's possible. But there are 3 principles which I will be sharing my humble thoughts on these 3 principles during the next 2 days. One is the intention or the attitude or the desire to give, serve, contribute. That is the foundation of nourishing this sacred space and meeting Krishna in our inner world. That is first and most important principle. Second is hearing about the Lord, which we will discuss hopefully in the afternoon session. The power of, the science of hearing or Shravanam, what actually happens inside when we hear about the Lord. And tomorrow morning, we will discuss about chanting. the regulated chanting which we do. It's not simply a ritual, there is more to it. And then in the afternoon session, I think we have on journaling. So whatever it is. So these are the 4 topics. So today I would like to begin with this intention or this desire to connect to the Lord, which is the foundation of entering this sacred space. And once we become comfortable facing our own inadequacies, once we have a little bit of self-irony, the ability to laugh at ourselves, at our foolishness, and also sincerely aspire to go ahead, we'll be a happy devotee in ISKCON. We'll be a happy sadhaka. So how do we start with this sacred space? The first and most important is cultivating a desire and willingness to go beyond the self. I mean, my body, my family, my head, my world. We all have inherently an aspiration to live beyond ourselves. And unfortunately, many of us don't tap that. We busy ourselves with our own petty problems often. But we all have it in us to seek something beyond. So there is a journal entry. I would just like to share this. It's based on something that I read over a period of time. See, there are 2 words. One is the word of the personality, and second is the word of the character. Personality is something, it's what the world thinks of us. And we focus a lot on this, right? What the world thinks of us. But there is something called as character, which is who I really am. Personality is what the world thinks of me. Character is who I really am. Spiritual life means we go beyond the personality. We seek the character. We want to be the real version of ourselves. Of course, both are important. If you have responsibilities, you need to also focus on your social life, your skill sets. But I had read a long time ago in one book, I think it was David Brooks. I don't remember the name of the author. But long back, and it resonated with me completely. He speaks about there are 2 value systems in this world. One is called biodata values, or the CV values, resume virtues. And the second is eulogy, or memorial values. What are these? So all value systems can be broadly categorized into these 2. So resume values are the ones that we list on our biodata. This is basically about all the skills that you bring to the job market, right? These are the value systems that help us or that contributes to our external success in this world. All of us focus on that or no? We all focus on so the value systems we have or we meditate upon mostly are the biodata values. Values that help us attain success in this external world. And we never compromise on that. We really want to do well. But there is something deeper. And that, understanding this deeper principle is the first step of creating a sacred space. And that is memorial values. Means these are the virtues that are talked about when you die. During your memorial service, they glorify you, right? And what do they talk about? See, these are value systems that exist at the core of our being. It's like, whether you're brave, kind, honest, what kind of relationships you form. This is actually who I am. So you got it now? Two kinds of value systems. What is biodata values? Anyone?
Sure.
This one, please raise your hand if you would like to answer. What is biodata values? For the professional world or the outside world, the external world. And what is memorial values? Anyone? Yes?
What people think of us when we die.
So basically, what is it actually?
Real character.
It's about the real character. It's about who you really are at the core of your being. So which is more important of the two? Which is more important?
Character.
CV values, right? Biodata values. No, memorial values. But let us honestly ask ourselves, we spend maximum time cultivating and thinking about which of the two?
First one.
First one, the biodata values. Right? Okay, you take any public conversations. You see these magazines or news channels. You see the politicians talking about. You see Bollywood, cricket, everywhere. What values are spoken about, discussed? The biodata values. And we make strategies in life. You make strategies for what? We make strategies for career success. Do we make strategies for developing a profound character? Let me make this strategy. Let me have this schedule every day. Let me do this. Let me chant. Let me do this, and then get back and take a performance appraisal on my character. No, we don't. We just give it lip service. So, anybody here who's made strategies on developing humility? I mean, I am not made. I'm not like speaking from a holier than thou. I'm also struggling. But we all know that we generally don't worry about making a strategy to develop kindness, compassion, faithfulness. And we just generally say, oh, Krsna, you take care. Let me focus on the biodata values. So basically that is, but we know if you want to really be happy and fulfilled, you need to focus on memorial values, because this is what we've been spoken about when, there is one seminar I attended, I think it's Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. They have a whole group, I forget the name of that group. So one workshop I attended, and they asked a question. Imagine you die and your soul, I was surprised, they speak about soul. So he said, imagine your soul is here, above the speaker. You have died and the soul is here above the speaker, and all your friends and relatives have gathered here. And they're going to talk about you because you are dead. But they don't know that you are watching everything here above the speaker. So now what would you like them to speak about you? And then that question was asked to each one of them, and we have to write it down. And I remember that was very thought-provoking. It made me confront and challenge all that I had been doing all my life. What would I want people to know me for? Really? And generally people want to be known as somebody who is very loving, caring, kind. But we hardly spend time cultivating those qualities. We generally focus on something which we feel we are under pressure or we need to do it. We feel we are helpless. But to understand this duality in our lives, we can see ourselves as two people. Each one of us here as two personalities. So Vrajbihari 1 and Vrajbihari 2. So when I say Vrajbihari 1, okay, we'll use a secular name, some common name. I'll say Aryan. Aryan. Anybody here named Aryan? No. Aryan 1 and Aryan 2. So when I speak about Aryan 1 and Aryan 2, please don't think I'm speaking about somebody called Aryan out there in India. Who am I speaking about? Yourself? No, myself. Right? So I'm talking about you and myself. So when I say Aryan 1, put your name there. Roman 1. When I say Aryan 2, you say Haridas Varya 2. Is that okay? So Aryan 1 is a name. Aryan is a word that refers to every Manish, Harish, Satish, Anita, Sarita, Kavita. All of that is Aryan 1 and Aryan 2. Okay? So, who is Aryan 1? Now, please understand, we all have these two personalities. Aryan 1 is career-oriented, ambitious side of our personality. Next. So, he is driven by what? Memorial values or biodata? Biodata values. So, Aryan 1 wants to do what? He wants to create, build, grow, discover. He wants to have high status, win victories, possess, achieve. Aryan 2 is interesting. Please ask yourself if somewhere within you this Aryan 2 is existing. I'm sure he is. He is buried, you have squelched him, but wake up now. Aryan2 is very internal. Aryan2, he or she wants to embody certain qualities deeply. Aryan2 wants to have a serene, inner, quiet life. A character which is quiet but a solid sense of right and wrong. Not just doing good, but actually being good. Aryan2 basically wants to sacrifice the self in service of others. Or Aryan2 basically someone who wants to live in obedience to something greater than himself or herself. Something beyond me. Aryan2 is someone who has an inner cohesiveness that honors God, that honors creation, that honors one's own possibilities. I once met a man during my travels in a train in India. And this man was a Keralite, Malayali, from South India. 35-year-old, dark complexion, well built, and he had a very angelic smile. And immediately I got attracted to him. I knew that this person is very special. And I didn't pick up a conversation where I had my chanting left. I looked at him a few times, and then he himself came to me. He said, "Sir, can I speak to you?" I said, "Yes." "Who are you? Are you some spiritual, religious person? Because I love spirituality." So I said, "What do you know about spirituality?" So he said a few things. He said, "I love to serve. I love to live for a cause beyond myself." So these things he called as spirituality. Then he asked me about myself. I said, "I'm Hare Krishna, ISKCON." He said, "I love Krishna." I said, "Why do you love Krishna?" He said, "Krishna lived not for himself." I said, "What do you mean? What do you know about Krishna?" Then he said how Krishna protected 16,000 queens who were kidnapped by Narakasur, and then how Krishna protected the Pandavas, and then he kept glorifying Krishna. So then I said, okay. And then I asked him, "What do you do?" And he said, "I am a coastal guard." I said, "Oh, that Navy?" He said, "No, this is something deeper and more profound than Navy." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "We enter the ocean when there is a cyclone or a turbulence or when there are people drowning. Our job is to save people from drowning in the ocean." So I said, "Oh, you must be an expert swimmer." He said, "Yeah, we have learned all this, how to save people from drowning, how to protect boats and ships that sink in the ocean, and we are doing all of these services. That is my job." I said, "Really? That must be exciting." He said, "Yeah." And then he told me about his father, who was a firefighter, and his great-grandfather, he was talking about his grandparents. Everybody in his family has been somebody who's been having a profession which is about protecting people, serving people directly. And he got excited when he started speaking about his job. And then he opened a notebook from his bag, and he showed me the list of the people he saved from drowning. And he says, "I see this diary every night before sleeping. It had some 120 names. And he says, I know I have saved 120 people, but not just 120. I know that each person is a family member, he has his family members, so I have saved 120 into 3. I have saved so many lives, and I feel such a sense of worth, contribution, that I live for something beyond myself." And then I realized that's exactly what everyone is looking for. Everyone wants to live for something beyond himself or herself. We want to give love. Each one of us is seeking to sacrifice, to melt away, to give out everything of ourselves, to merge into the universe. In the sense, just let me dissolve my existence to something higher, something more beautiful. And in our tradition, we know that as Krishna, we want to give ourselves completely to Krishna. That's there somewhere in the core of our hearts. So Aryan 1 is one who wants to conquer the world, but Aryan 2 wants to obey a calling to serve the world, to give himself completely. Aryan 1 is savoring his or her own accomplishments. And Aryan too will sometimes renounce worldly pleasures. Aryan too will give up worldly success, status, fame for some purpose. Aryan one will always ask how things work. Have you had this question? How to get this done? How? The how question is generally Aryan one in action. Like in my seminars, people say, you give any talk, immediately the question, how? If I give a talk on chanting, how to improve chanting? Aryan 2 has a different set of questions. Aryan 2's question is, why things exist? What am I here for? What is the goal of life? Ke ami, kene amar, jana tapatra. Sanatana Goswami is asking Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who am I? Why do I go through sufferings of this material world? When we are seeking something higher, that is Aryan 1 or Aryan 2? I had this experience I want to share with all of you. I give this lecture. Now here, generally in UK, we have a talk and then we have question answers. But when I was preaching in one particular place in Mumbai, I had started a trend of beginning the class with question answers. And then after half an hour of question answers, then the next half an hour would be my talk based on the discussion that we had in the first half an hour. So I started this trend and it went off very well. And then I stopped that program because of some other reasons. So something interesting happened. So one day I had spoken about chanting. And ended the class on chanting. Next week, the first question that came up was, Prabhu, last week you spoke on chanting. How to actually chant? Did you get the question? How to actually chant the holy names of the Lord? That was the question. So then I showed my bead bag, I explained to him how we chant, we put the thumb here and all that, the ritual of chanting I explained. And how we put the counter bead, and 1 round, and then now we done 16 rounds. And then, of course, we had other questions, and we had a class. Next week, somebody asked a question. Prabhu, last week you spoke on how to chant. You answered the question on how to chant. And, you gave us all the demonstration. But I've been doing that for a long time, but still, I don't think I'm connected to Krishna. So how to connect to Krishna based on this chanting? Because you said a lot of times that chanting will help us connect to Krishna. So how to connect to Krishna based on this chanting? Then I spoke about attention, listening to the sound vibration and all of that. And next week somebody asked, how to listen to the holy names? Because mind is wandering all the time. So I said, slow down your life, practice Sattva Guna, take a shower 2 times a day, eat prasad slowly, relax. And the next week somebody said, how to practice Sattva Guna? So I said, take breathing breaks. I demonstrated to them the technique of 4 into 4 into 4 breathing methods. Inhale to the count of 4, all that I did, and everybody was happy. And then the next week, Prabhu, how do we breathe consciously? Because the mind is wandering so much, it's so difficult to breathe. It's almost impossible. I said, if you find it very difficult to breathe and take a break, I suggest it's all useless, just chant Hare Krishna. Then I quoted the verses from the Kalisattara Upanishad of Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Ram Eva Kevalam. And I spoke only the glories of the holy name. And the next week somebody said, Prabhu, you spoke the glories of the holy name and how we should chant the holy name. How do we chant the holy name? And then I spoke about chanting, bead bag. And the next week somebody said, how do we chant attentively? You see what's happening? The how questions always trap us in a loop. We keep going on and on. There is no end to the answers of how questions. And that's where Aryan 1 lives. How? Anything you say, how? Aryan 2 challenges, why? Like when somebody tells me, Prabhu, the ashram, one Brahmadari told me, Prabhu, I want to lose weight, because I lost 12 kgs 2 years ago. Now, of course, I've gained back, but I was going through some treatment. And I lost 12 kgs and everybody was impressed in the ashram. So one Brahmachari came to me and said, you lost 12 kgs. I also want to lose weight because I'm overweight and I'm not keeping good health. How do I lose weight? So he thought I'll tell him 1, 2, 3, 4. I just challenged him. I provoked him. I said, why do you want to lose weight? Then he gave some answer. I want to be healthy. Then I asked him, why do you want to be healthy? Because I want to serve Krishna. Why do you want to serve Krishna? So 5 times I went back. Why? And the 5th time he was like, the last question was, why do you believe Prabhupada? He said, one of the answers he said was, Prabhupada said, we have to perfect our life and go back home back to God. So I said, why do you believe that you have to go back home back to God? What's the big deal? And then he just kept quiet. We shared silence for a few moments. What I'm trying to say is, when you ask why 5 times, the how will manifest automatically. We don't ask why often. We just want how, solutions. That is RN1. RN2 will go deeper. What am I here for? Why am I doing this? Basically, the whole thing is RN1 wants to go out, RN1 wants to go inward. It's simple. RN1's motto is success, whereas RN2 is more of charity, redemption, forgiveness, love. These things are all RN2 space. So, all of us, Hare Krishna devotees, we live in contradiction between these two RNs. The RN1 is outer, majestic. Like, to be very honest, I also have been victim of this. I don't manage, I'm not on social media, I'm not on Facebook, Instagram, none of this except WhatsApp. But I have a devotee friend who is like very close to me, and he insisted that I post my lectures on YouTube, and he made a YouTube channel and all of that. And I remember, and I never used to even, I never know what are the kind of posts he puts on the Instagram. And then somebody comes and tells me, oh Prabhu, that was an excellent post, oh there was a small reel, and I'm like, really? I didn't put it, and then I know this friend of mine did it. And then one day, this devotee told me, Prabhu, this lecture of yours was very good, and I said, really? I don't remember when I gave it. He said, no. Then he gave the title. So I went to YouTube and I searched, and I saw the views. And I saw some 15,000 views. I was like, wow, that's a lot of people have seen this lecture. And then after some time, after a few months, somebody else told me about something else. And then I said, oh, what lecture is that? He told me about some lecture. Then I went to YouTube, I searched my lecture, and I saw it had some 450 views. I said, 450? But I had 10,000, I had 50,000 views last time for the last video. I'm like, why so less? And then suddenly I realized, RN1 is active. RN1 wants all this. That's how we are trapped. The majestic outer. RN2 is different. Now see if this resonates with you. Somewhere there is a voice within you. RN2 is inner. It's like humble. It doesn't want worldly glory. He wants to be connected deeply. And this contradiction is not fully reconcilable. You can't say I'll reconcile this. It's not so easy. We are, it seems like we are forever caught in self-confrontation. Right? We feel there is a confrontation because we are called to fulfill both personalities. We have to fulfill both. So I see myself as somebody who has to somehow master the art of living forever between the tension of these two personalities, these two natures. And both have different logics. RN1's logic is of creating, building, discovering. He lives by a very straightforward utilitarian logic. What is his logic? Input leads to output. Effort leads to reward. Practice makes you perfect. Maximize your profits, minimize your losses. This is RN1, simple logic. We all live in this world with this logic, isn't it? But RN2 is different. He is not focusing on impressing the world or maximizing. He is living by an inverse logic. This is a little difficult for everyone to accept, but this is not a moral logic. This is not an economic logic. This is where I know some devotees who really live by this RN2 mindset. I've seen this in ISKCON, and that's why I'm able to say this very confidently. I may not be there, but I've seen devotees who are convinced that they have to give, to receive. They're not focusing on, they're constantly thinking of giving. I live in an ashram where many brahmacharis who are many years younger to me, they have humbled me completely by their, their RA2 is internalized so much. They're only thinking of giving. And they feel I'm giving, I'm receiving. And RA2 basically is convinced that he has to surrender to something outside of himself to gain strength within himself. Means he will connect to Krsna, pray to Krsna. Basically something beyond me, serving Vaishnavas. It's not about me. Aryan1 will fulfill his desire. Aryan2 will question his desire. He will try to transcend the desire. I don't want this desire. It's very different logic. That's what I'm trying to say. And Aryan1 wants success. You know what Aryan2 does? I've seen devotees like this. I've seen devotees who have told me that I think my success is a failure because it has made me proud. Aryan2's logic is very different. Success is bad because it's failure, because it made me proud. And failure is good because it keeps me grounded. It makes me humble. The whole thinking is different. So Aryan2's logic is to fulfill yourself, you have to forget yourself. To find yourself, you have to lose yourself. Aryan1 will cultivate his strengths. Aryan2 will confront his weaknesses. So, all of you, I'm asking you a humble question. Don't have to answer me. Where do you spend your time? Cultivating, nourishing whom? Aryan1 or Aryan2? There is a lot of clarity in our society on how we should, we can have a great career, how we can do a lot of things on the external front, but a lot of inarticulation on how to live an inner life. Because the competition to succeed, get admiration, get followers on Instagram, it's all consuming. Recently, one very famous social media, I forget her name, I got it on my WhatsApp forward. This lady who has some million, so she has a lot of followers, but she was upset. She couldn't get, she wanted I think 2 million followers or something, and she was stuck at 1.5. And then she finally couldn't handle it, and then she ended her life or something. It's very intense. This problem wasn't existing a few years ago, but now the approval of the society, so it's making us live by utilitarian calculus, thinking, satisfying our desires, getting approval of the world. We don't realize the spiritual stakes involved in such kind of behavior. Nourishing the Aryan1 at the cost of Aryan2. Because there is a lot of loudness, a lot of noise, a lot of shallow, superficial communication. And because of this, we are not able to hear the quieter sounds. I remember many years ago, Mother Vishaka had come to Govardhan Eco Village, and she was giving a Bhagavatam class, and there were all brahmacharis who were sitting. And I remember Gaurang Prabhu asked this question to you, Mother. I don't know if you remember. Gaurang Prabhu asked you this question that you were staying in, I think, LA for many years. I don't know which. Then you went to Canada. Sharanagati, I think. Yeah. So he asked, what are the difference? How did you find life different there? He asked you this question. And then Mataji just gave such a profound answer, one line answer. She said, I was in myself. I could hear the inner noise more clearly. I could hear the inner voice more clearly because there was less noise. That hit me so hard actually. So we have a practice, some of us, we go to sometimes, because even the temple atmosphere, sometimes things can be very fast. When it becomes a thick job, things to do. So then I pause myself, I go to a banyan tree near our temple, I sit there, I chant my rounds, I write my journals, I connect to myself. So the point I'm saying is there is a sound that emanates from the depth that we need to hear, that we need to listen to. But we live in a culture, unfortunately, which teaches us how to promote ourselves and master skills that are required for external success. But very little encouragement is given to cultivate humility, sympathy, honesty, love. And for a character, for Aryan2, these things are needed. And that's where we are disconnected from Aryan 2, many of us. So sacred space means reviving Aryan 2. Let us say we don't care for Aryan 2. Let us focus only on Aryan 1. Aryan 1 means input leads to output, effort leads to reward, practice makes you perfect. Then you know what will happen to us? You know what we'll all become? We'll become a crafty, shrewd animal. We'll only be thinking of negotiation skills, getting things done. Everything in the world, every event will be a game or a fight, and impressing others. And years pass, decades pass, and the deepest part of ours would be neglected, and we would feel, some kind of vacuum. Even as a devotee, like there is some vague anxiety that I don't know if you have ever experienced. Sometimes it's abstract, and you feel, what is wrong? So that is what psychologists call as unconscious boredom. Because we're not really attached to the spiritual purpose. We may be attached to the spiritual practice, we may be just going through the motions. But there is a purpose. So, and therefore many of us may lack the inner commitment to that resolve to make intense, lifelong vows, commitments, take initiations, those kind of things. Because to absorb ourselves and cultivate Aryan 2 will lead us to withstand popular approvals. I have identified 6 things that always harass me. These 6 things are like which keeps Aryan 1 in action, and Aryan 2 is always quenched. Fear. I don't know how many of you are driven by insecurity and fear. There is some fear always lurking. So I have discovered through journaling, and I feel grateful that Krishna has revealed to me these 6 things. So every moment, whenever there's an uncomfortable emotion, I'm able to offer it to Krishna. I'm trying to offer it, I offer it to Krishna. Right now, fear is gripping me. Krishna, I offer this to you. Please help me. I want to serve you. Fear. Second, approval-seeking behavior. And third, I feel ashamed to say this, but I am a control freak. I didn't realize it. Somewhere subtly we want everything to be in control. And one day I saw myself just going through news channels. Because in India, right now in the India-Pakistan tensions are intense right now. There is a war threat of war that is looming large. So then at one point of time I had to stop myself. Why am I looking at the news? Because I realized I don't have tolerance of uncertainty. I can't tolerate uncertainty. I want clarity. I want control. So in that desperate attempt, I'm going through the news channel. So then I had to stop myself, breathe, journal, pray, and say, Krishna, I give up. So then I have to consciously work on it. Sometimes we get dragged. So Aryan 1, when he is active, is driven by fear, approval-seeking behavior, control, enjoying tendency. That is the 4th. Then obsession with time. Like always looking at the watch. Okay, how many rounds left? Of course, when I'm giving class, I should look at the watch. Otherwise, I'll be harassing you. So I keep looking at the watch all the time. Time. There's some fear of like time. Time has to be in control. And then the last is speed. Rajoguna. So these are the 6 I've seen that when my Aryan 1 is awake and when I'm not focused on my inner life, I see that even my outer life eventually collapses. So as a preacher for many years, when I was in the delusion, I'm being very honest with you, I thought that I have to appear more confident than what I really am. I have to appear smarter than what I really am. I have to appear better. I have to appear more confident. So I work hard as a preacher. I prepare my classes, all of that. But we need to go deeper. I realize that we need to go deeper, and unfortunately there is no concrete moral vocabulary in the society. Nobody is telling us how to work on our inner values so much. So we will get into mediocrity, and it will be self-delusion. I've seen sometimes, when we are not working hard on our character, we start fooling ourselves. It's something called as self-delusion. We start saying things like, well, I'm not harming anyone. I think I'm nice. As long as I'm kind to everyone, I think I'm doing good. It's like we actually compromise. It's a compromise. We turn ourselves into something less impressive than what we actually want to be. We want to be connected to Krishna. There's a humiliating gap that opens up between who we really want to be, and who we actually are at this stage. So I don't want to take names, but I know some devotees, and I don't want to embarrass them by taking their names. I know some devotees in ISKCON. Honestly, I'm convinced that they're Aryan. They view Aryan too, because have you seen devotees? I'm sure you know some devotees in ISKCON, even in your own community here, who radiate a certain kind of spiritual joy. You look at them, you know that they don't need to prove anything to anybody. They are like not a egoistic sense of self-assuredness, but they are peaceful. They are happy. You will see there is humility in them, there is restraint, there is respect, and also certain kind of soft self-discipline. You've seen such devotees? You will see them, I know some devotees, they answer softly when they are challenged harshly. Because they are congruent, they are connected. They are silent when life treats them unfairly. They are dignified when people try to humiliate them. And they are also restrained when others try to provoke them. And yet, I've seen, including my own Guru Maharaj, they get things done. With all this, it's not that they are like, let me just be quiet. No, they are soft, self-disciplined, they'll be humble, they'll not fight back, but they'll also get things done. The Vijnanamaya Kosha, they say in the Upanishads, the wisdom sheath is so developed because of connection to the Lord. And they will perform big sacrifices, big services with the same everyday spirit as if they are performing some, washing pots or, even the ordinary things, they will do it. They will do the big, for them, they're not thinking about the impressive work they are doing. Because they're not thinking about themselves at all. They are thinking about a cause higher than themselves. So for them, washing pots is also the same thing. And giving a big lecture. I know one devotee who knows the entire Ramcharitmanas by memory. He just speaks on Ramayana like it's Ganga flowing from his mouth. I'm like, wow, so much. But he's always, he's washing pots, he's cleaning the floor, he's doing everything with the same spirit. Because he's not thinking about himself, he's just connected to the Lord, attached to the Lord. And that's Aryan too. So, and such devotees are very, very dear to Krishna. In my travels, I met a group of people. They're not devotees, but they have influenced me tremendously. I want to share their story. During my travels, I went to one hilly tribal area in Orissa. And I was shocked to see this group. Now, this is politically, they have a bad image in India, so I won't talk about the group, but I'll talk about these individuals. They went to this village 40 years ago. These 3 men. They are bachelors. They are not married. And last 40 years, they are serving in this village, and they are trying to, a lot of conversions happen in India, and a lot of, missionaries, and a lot of things happen. So, they are trying to revive the Sanatana Dharma, the Vedic culture. So, they go to these villages. He says, we have spent 40 years in this village. They made a small Ganesh temple, and they get people there. They teach them the Vedic culture. They are preaching in their own way. They will not be preaching about Krishna. And then he told me about his friends in Assam, Nagaland, Northeast, how there are men across India, so many places where this group of people, they have spent the whole life in being not famous. Nobody knows. They are actual sadhus. And here we are just because they are wearing saffron. People come and bow to us. But I realize these guys are more dedicated actually. Nobody knows them. Outside that village, nobody knows them. They are like dedicated to the cause, and then they are very satisfied. I could see that energy, that satisfaction, giving a life for a cause beyond themselves. And then I also had the chance to go to some other villages because they connected me to their friends, and I got so much inspiration. And I realized there are many such people, but sometimes we get caught up with the glamour, the razzle dazzle, the externals. That Aryan 1 is in action, and Aryan 2's voice is muffled. is somewhere buried. Also, I remember, I end with this and then maybe we can have questions and comments. I remember as a young boy, teenager, reading a book called City of Joy by Dominic Lavier. And I was completely moved by one. There are three stories which are completely moving in that novel. So it's a true story. It's based on real characters, but the names have been changed. So it's about a slum area in Kolkata. Those of you know, there is a slum in Kolkata called Anand Nagar, which is extremely, there's a lot of squalor, dirt, it's inhuman conditions at that time. And the way the author describes the latrines there and the huts, how the people lived there. And then he speaks about one Polish Christian missionary who came there. And he lived in that hut. And he was from a wealthy family from Poland. And he came to spread the message of God. And how he lived there, that inspired me so much. He had a small hut where the rats and cockroaches would always be running around, jumping on him. And he would sit there, and then the food, once a day, somebody from one church would get him once a day food, and he would eat that. And then the rest of the day he would be spending time with the people. And the toilet facilities, I don't want to get into the details. But why I'm telling this story is what gave him strength. So thrice a day, just like we do Gayatri Japa, he says thrice a day, this man, he would drop everything and sit in his hut or wherever he was, in what we call as Vajrasana, on his knees, and he had his prayer pose, and he would connect to his Lord, his God, and he would not get up from that position till he felt connected. Till he felt a sense of belonging with Jesus, with his God. He wouldn't get up from that position. And then if it was too late, like let's say he spent half an hour and then he would get up and he would say, "Oh my dear God, please forgive me. I couldn't connect to you now. My mind was going everywhere, but I love you and I will come back to you again after a few hours." So although he was not connecting, but he ended by connection. And then again after a few hours he would come. So he says that and he slept. He failed. Like for example, he says, the book says how once somebody from his hometown in Poland came and brought him a bag full of chocolates. And he devoured them because he had been literally devoured when he was deprived of all the enjoyment that he had. And now he says, and the book says how in those 2 days he finished off the whole chocolate bag. And then he regretted, life is supposed to be a life of tapasya. And then again he comes back. And that entire story was very heart-touching. And there are many such people, who have given their life for Aryan too. So I'm not saying we have to imitate them again. I'm just saying somewhere we need to awaken that why, that seeker within us. That somebody who wants to live for a cause beyond himself, beyond the senses and the mind, intelligence and ego. We want to go deeper. So let us create that sacred space by first entering this world of asking why, what, who am I? And expressing our intention and aspiration to the universe to go beyond ourselves and lead a life of service. So that's the first principle of sacred space. Service and going beyond self. In the afternoon session, we will discuss about hearing, and tomorrow morning on chanting, how these three activities help us enter the world of our inner sacred space and nourish Aryan 1. No, Aryan 2. And then tomorrow afternoon we will have discussions on journaling. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
We can have some comments or questions or corrections. Yes, Madhuri.
Thank you for that thought-provoking class. A thought was just crossing my mind.
Hare Krishna. Yes, we have to nourish Aryan too. But at the same time, we do live in the material world. So we do need Aryan 1 to survive as well. So would it be right to say that we have to find a balance between Aryan 1 and 2?
I would just like to read what I wrote.
Sorry for reading.
I said something during the class. I would just like to repeat it because my journal said it better than I can say it. We always live in contradiction between these two Aryans. I'll repeat. We always live in contradiction. And Aryan 1 and Aryan 2 are not fully reconcilable. We are forever caught in self-confrontation. We are called to fulfill both personalities. And we must master the art of living forever within the tension between these two natures. But eventually we'll get there. We'll become congruent inside out. One day we will. That's why we need self-identity. That's what I'm saying. The ability to, I sometimes tell myself in my journal that I'm a sincere clown. You laugh at your sweet behavior, forgotten the art of laughing at ourselves. We take ourselves too seriously. I've seen devotees, we take ourselves too seriously, and that's why we get offended. We get offended by silly things. Oh, he looked at me like that. She spoke to me like this. Oh, she said this about me to someone else. We are not supposed to take ourselves seriously. We are supposed to take the process of Krishna consciousness seriously. And we have landed up taking ourselves too seriously. So yeah, I'm not there yet. I'm like, okay, I have these desires of wanting to be somebody important, famous. I'm ashamed of it, but I'm okay. I have somewhere deep within there is Aryan to Krishna. See, that's the point. The point is we need to learn to offer where we are. At this stage, we need to come to Krishna. Don't think once you become pure, then you are like Aryan 2. No, at this stage, our authenticity is our qualification. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, you have a wilted flower. We say, how can you offer a wilted flower to Krishna? Okay, in the external world, we need to have a beautiful temple. You can't cook for Krishna. You can't say, Radha Gokulanand Rajbhog, just put any masala, No, you will cook it nicely because you want to offer it to Krishna. So in the external world, everything we do, it has to be best for Krishna. Right? So sometimes we think in the internal world, I have to be best and pure and then I can offer to Krishna. Well, that's true. We want to offer the best to Krishna even internally, but right now, Krishna will accept if you come to Krishna, they have a wilted flower, but I don't have anything else to offer you. I'm very fallen, I'm very down, but I love you, Krishna. I want to come to you. That's, even as Aryan 1 is loud, noisy, demanding, domineering, Aryan 2 is woken up. That sincere call, Krishna, I'm like, and I see, even if you are fallen, but if we come back to Krishna with sincerity, Krishna won't judge us. In this world, we generally are judged. And that's why when we break our promise to someone, we avoid them because we are afraid we'll be judged. Similarly, when we make a promise to Krishna and if we fail, we are scared to come back to Krishna because we feel Krishna will also judge us. No, Krishna will embrace us in His love. Do you see what I'm saying? Like I remember one boy in the class, I made everyone chant 2 rounds. And there was a new program. I said, how many of you promised to chant 2 rounds every day? So some of them were reluctant. I said, okay, 1 round, 2 rounds. So everybody made a commitment. And one boy, I'm not judging him now, but everybody thought he was trying to draw attention. But I promised to chant every day 32 rounds. I said, relax, don't chant 32. No, just chant 2. No. I insisted, no, don't chant 32 rounds every day. He said, okay, I will chant 16 rounds every day. And everybody clapped and Hari Bol. And after that, after 2 days, I didn't see him in the temple. And then I kept looking for him. And during those days, we didn't have mobile phones. So I was like wondering, where is he? And then after 7 or 8 months, one day I found at the bus stop. I was going for book distribution. And I looked at him. And he was initially avoiding me, but when he realized that now he can't avoid me and we've kind of seen each other, he gave a very sheepish smile. And I came to him and I embraced him. I said, Hari Bol, how are you? And then he said, yeah. And then I didn't ask him anything about chanting. I just asked him, how are you? How's your mother? I remember you were working in this company. I'm still working there. And after a few minutes, he said, Prabhu, I'm not chanting. I said, that's okay. no, I mean, I promised, in front of everyone, I'll chant 16 rounds. You remember that? I said, yeah, but that's okay. No, I mean, everybody clapped and everybody glorified, and then I could chant the very next day. And I was feeling so ashamed, and I thought, what would you think of me? So I didn't come to the temple. I didn't want to show my face. But then I said, oh, you were fearing that you'll be judged? He said, yeah. Then again embraced him. I said, no, it's okay. You come back to Krishna. And then I asked him, remember I told you just chant 2 rounds? And all that, we had a conversation. But I realized after that conversation that how, in this world, he didn't come back to me because he thought I'll judge him. Similarly, we make a promise to Krishna. Krishna, I do this, and then when we don't do it, we avoid Krishna. But we don't realize if we come back to Krishna at that moment with all sincerity, we will see, wow, Krishna is different. Krishna is different from the fallible people of this world. And even Krishna's devotees, sincere devotees, they won't judge you. They will push you. They will love you. That's also something called a stuff love, right? They will not just mollycoddle you. Okay, they will not give a license to your wrong practices, but they will love you. They will want to nourish you. So I think the tension will always be there between the two. But wherever we are, we need to come to Krishna. Does that answer the question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you very much for the wonderful session. Prabhupada said we cannot kill desires, even material desires, but we need to center everything to Krishna. Suppose your desire is to have a big house. You can say, Krishna, I will use this in your service. I will have Mahasangha. So there is nothing wrong in thinking like this. So my question is, can Aryan 1 be transformed into Aryan 2's covering?
If I understand you correctly, correct me if I'm wrong. You're asking if I have so many desires and material desires like wanting a house or a car and things like that, and I tell myself that I use it for Krishna's service. So if I do that consistently, I'm attempting to spiritualize my material desires, but is Aryan 1 actually dominating over Aryan 2? Is it self-delusional? Am I cheating myself? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Or are you saying that
It's more
is it
about-
healthy?
It's more about, can Aryan 1 be purified by Aryan 2, so both are happy and there is no
That's what I'm
balance.
saying. I come back to what I answered Mataji, that these two personalities will always exist within us. Only when we come to the stage of surrender, when we say Krishna, see, Aryan 1 and Aryan 2 coexisting means we are in the world of struggle. The Gita says, Prak Sharira Vimokshana, if we give up our body, we are struggling. But pure devotees of Krishna, who are like Aryan 2, they don't struggle, they are surrendered. They have raised their hands like Draupadi, Krishna, I am yours. We, however, we are struggling also, and sometimes we surrender also. It's like this, when your car gets, like we were driving from our temple to Govardhaniko village, and our car broke down. So what do? So what we did, we called a mechanic. And as we were calling, I was like, Krishna, please help, let this mechanic come fast, because I had some very important service in the Govardhaniko village. So I realized, I'm struggling also trying to get the mechanic, but I'm also praying to Krishna, connecting with Krishna. Krishna, please help, Krishna, I want to serve. So that was struggle and surrender both going on. And then I realized, this happened just last month, okay? What was going on? Struggle and surrender. Now when we were flying from Mumbai to London, I was in British Airways, and at some point of time the plane just for a few seconds, it violently, I think it just shook in the mid-air. Just for a few seconds, some turbulence. And immediately I said, okay, now I can't struggle. I just have to surrender. You see what I'm saying? Now I can't say, but there are some times in our life when now whom will I call? What arrangement will I make? So as you're living in your world, as you're navigating through your situation, you may be struggling and also remembering Krishna, connecting. That's okay, but then we have to spend some time every day, 2 hours of japa or Bhagavatam class, somewhere where we let go all our nonsense that's up here and say, Krishna, I'm yours. I want to receive, I want to be influenced, I want you to take over. At some point of time, we have to say this. Like in Bhagavatam classes, sometimes it's somebody very new bhakta giving class. And I'm like sitting in the class, and then so many things come up. Wow. It's so nourishing. Anybody, it's our mood, our attitude to surrender. Draupadi, when she was called into the assembly, what was the first thing she did? When she was, that story, Dushasan dragged her. So when the first time she got the message to come to she was dragged, what was the first thing she did? She remembered Krishna very intensely. But she also struggled. She negotiated with Drona, Bhishma, all that. She did both, struggle and remembering Krishna. But at one point of time she realized she is not in the highway, her car is not broken down, she is in the airplane. At some point of time she realized she has to let go. So we'll all be forced by circumstances, by Krishna's merciful intervention in our lives, where we can't struggle. We'll have to let go and say, Krishna, I'm yours. So till then, enjoy. But be ready to pay the price for your desire for a car. Every material desire that you fulfill comes with a price tag. Right? So, like I remember, I was going with a friend of mine, Krsna, and he's my very close friend. We came to KC together. And he's married, and he has a child his daughter is also going to get married next month. He's telling me, he saw one, I forget the name of the car, very, very fancy car, Lamborghini. And one Lamborghini went, and he said, Prabhu, I have this desire for a long time. I want a Lamborghini. And I said, but we are ready to pay the price for it. He said, yeah, I know, it's not only expensive in terms of rupees, but it's also will come with the whole baggage. Yeah, as long as you're ready to pay the price, go for it. And then we come to Krishna. This is the beauty of material attachment. Material attachment brings us down on our knees, because attachment brings suffering. And when that suffering, the drop of tear in your eyes, you can come to Krishna and offer that tear. Because Krishna loves to travel on Ashrupatha. Krishna travels the path of tears. So I sometimes tell Grihasthas, it's better to be materially attached and come to Krishna crying than to be a stoic, detached, stone-hearted renunciant. So we be ready to pay the price, and then Krishna, I'm fed up of this material life, Krishna. I don't want all these attachments. Please, Krishna. You can't be fake. But yeah, it's so the few things I've answered to your question. One is be ready to pay the price. Second, both can exist harmoniously as long as you are wherever you are. Come to Krishna at that stage. Thank you. I will take her question first. Yes, Navneet.
When you say about this biodata, these judgments, comments, they are everyday part of life.
Yes.
So why I can't be bothered? I mean, it's headache, it's heart attack. I mean, if it helps, okay, I can't be bothered. It's just headache, heart attack. I mean, you only ruin your health and waste time. So these judgments and comments are part of that. I've learned to ignore that.
You learn to transcend them. Thank you. Thank you.
So I just say to myself, I want my health and my peace of mind. I
Great.
quietly sit down and I don't want to.
Yes. There's a question here.
Thanks so much for a nice talk. Just a quick one, which is kind of based on the other question as well. So I understand that we can't reconcile the two selves, but I was just wondering, can we use the strengths of REN1 to help us achieve our spiritual goals and ambitions from REN2? And how would be best
I
to
think
do
I
that?
have too much analysis. I have not done so much analysis. It was a poetic way of explaining. I didn't do so much thinking on this. Maybe some other day. We're trying to map everything and get some coherence. But I know one thing, wherever we are, and Chaitanya Prabhu says it beautifully, that at your place, at your pace, come to Krishna's space, something like that. So wherever we are, it's okay. Like, one boy, okay, talking about the strengths of Aryan or whatever, the way you are putting it. I know one boy, his actual name is Aryan. This boy, he was studying in our Gopal's Garden High School in Mumbai. And I was shocked, he was running for his exam, his monthly exams they had in the school. And he had his writing pad in which he would write the exam answers on his left hand. And on his right hand, he had Jagannath, big Jagannath DT. I said, hey, Aryan, where are you going? Prabhu, exam, I'm getting late. I said, wait. What is this? I said, Prabhu, my exam. I said, what is this? Jagannath, Prabhu, I have to go for the exam. I said, wait, tell me, why are you taking Jagannath for your exams? He said, I have a very simple formula, Prabhu. I just keep Jagannath in front of me. And when the examiner gives me the question paper, I first show the question paper to Jagannath. Please see this. Jagannath, take care of me. And then I write the answers. After I finish my exam, answers. And then before submitting the answer paper to the examiner, I show the answer paper to Jagannath. This is what I have written. Now please take care of me. And then I give the answer paper. I said, really? Who taught you this? No, Prabhu, I hope I'm not doing anything wrong, but this is what I'm doing. So, you know what this boy is improvised his own way of connecting to Krishna. Then I told this to his parents. So, they have two altars at home, one in his room and one in the main altar. So his room altar, Jagannath, he gets it to the exam. So his parents don't know that. So his mom didn't know, she was shocked, but I didn't know this, he does that. So they didn't stop him, they encouraged him to do that. Although ideally we don't take the DT from the altar. But because he was a young boy, 8 years old, and he invented his own ways of remembering Krishna, connecting with Krishna. So the idea is wherever you are, somehow come to Krishna. And Krishna is, Krishna is not waiting for us to be pure. That's the point I'm trying to make. I'll tell you a real life example. Once we were driving in Sri Lanka, we had gone for a yatra to this holy place of Lord Ram in Sri Lanka. So we were two brahmacharis in the front seat, and there were 50 grahasthas behind. And we were going through a hill, we had to go to a mountain top where there was a Hanuman temple. So the bus would drive for almost 5 minutes one way, and then turn and then go up for another 5 minutes. Then again go up, what I'm saying, it's a hilly, mountainous region. So at one point of time, we saw one young boy in front of us, and I could see it because this boy was right in front of us. He had 4 or 5 bags filled with flowers. And he was like waving at us so that we could buy his flowers. And the bus driver was going at a good speed, maybe 60 kilometers per hour. He just avoided him and went straight ahead. So I looked at that boy and said, wow, what enthusiasm. I thought only I had seen that boy. And then the bus went ahead, then it again went up. After 5 minutes, again I see him in front of me. And how did he land up here? Then I immediately figured out this boy must have climbed through the mountains. He must be doing the shortcuts. He must have come. But he was sweating, I could see that. Again the driver avoided him. And again I was like impressed by this boy's enthusiasm. 3rd time, 4th time. And I thought everybody else is sleeping. I need to realize what's happening behind me. But everybody had seen that. So at the 4th or 5th time when the bus was going somewhere very close to the camera and this boy was standing, everybody unanimously, spontaneously shouted, stop, they stopped the bus. And they let the boy in. This Sri Lankan boy, maybe 10, 11 years old, dark skinned, 5, 6 bags, sweating profusely. He was just smiling. And he took out the flowers. All the flowers were wilted, rotten flowers. And he's like, and Sri Lankan language we didn't understand. And Indian rupee is much stronger than Sri Lankan rupee. And our devotees in the congregation, I was like watching them. They were giving 500 rupees, 200 rupees to take those flowers. I was like, as a brahmachari, I was money, this is giving money, and they were just, because they just overwhelmed with his enthusiasm, his sweetness, the way he was wanting to give his flowers. And his whole bag was empty. Everybody brought all the flowers. And that boy was like smiling and he's stuffing his pocket with the rupees. And then he went off waving at us. Nobody understood what he spoke. And everybody was loving him and he went away. And then as he went away, we both of us, the brahmacharis, were like, wow, this is how we have to come to Krishna. We were discussing, yes, I have wilted flowers. Nothing I have to offer Krishna, but I am coming to Krishna. Krishna, I am yours. I attend the morning program. I chant my japa today. Not this japa is boring, but Krishna, I want to show my sincerity to you. I'll sit with this holy name. I'll sit with you, even though I'm not feeling happy. Generally, we think bhakti is about my happiness. I have to be happy when I'm chanting. No. Prabhupada said chant Hare Krishna and be happy, but same Prabhupada in Chaitanya Charitamrita Antya-lila says chant Hare Krishna and make Krishna happy. We are not chanting Hare Krishna to be happy. So we are not at that level as yet. We are not on that level, I agree. But at least at whatever level we are, Krishna and yours. Is that okay? Hare Krishna. Should we stop here? Thank you. Hare Krishna. Prabhupada.